Hi, good people. Today we are talking about the quiet genius of hanging laundry. And we're celebrating slow, overlooked acts that are full of texture and timing and quiet skill. And I'm not about romanticizing chores. That's not what we're here to do. It's about noticing the little brilliance at what we do without thinking. Yes, we're in a world where now we have washing machines, dryers, and stuff like that. But people still hang their clothes out. There are countries where washing is hand washed, clothes are hand washed and hung on the line. We do have the option of using a dryer, but some of us love our clothes to be sun-kissed. So I think we need to talk about how graceful laundry can be. Before washing machines, people hung their stories on the line. There's a way to hang your clothes, maybe the big sheets on the outer lines, the smaller clothing, the smaller pieces in towards the inside, the colors of the clothing. Some people do whites, then we have colors, and then we have black darks. What kind of clothing? Sometimes there's a baby because the line is filled with the baby's clothing, or somebody's very stylish. Some people wash their curtains. They tell you about the people's daily lives, what they're doing, what's happening, what's going on in their homes, just from what is hung on the line. And there's a genius way in how it is hung and folded, and the fabric and the texture. Some people just like polyester. Some people like natural fibers, Then it's the weather. What's the weather like? What are people wearing in the weather? What is the fashion in that country, in that part of the world? There's a sequence and a rhythm. People wash maybe on a Thursday, on a Saturday, and then maybe they're going to iron on a Sunday. Or some people do everything in the week, or small things are washed in the week and larger pieces are washed at the end of the week. Sometimes it's the rugs. Sometimes it's the bedspreads. What do people choose? Which item do they choose to hang first? The heavier ones at the end, the small ones in between? Then timing, you need to know that it's not going to rain. You have to look at the clouds. You have to watch the weather channel or look at the weather app to determine if it's going to be sunny, if there's going to be clouds, it's going to be breezy. You become your own weather reader. And the different stories, the different textures of the fabric tell. What does wet denim feel versus soft linen versus heavy wools? How different they are in your hands. Where did they come from? Where did that wool come from? What part of the world? And whose hands did they pass through to get to where they were to be hung on someone's line? It's called tactile mindfulness. Certain people just wear silks or anything that is silk-like. And then there's generational memory. How did the generations of these families, women in these families in particular, in some cultures it's the men who do the laundry, the heavy laundry, the heavier pieces. There are men whose professions are to come and wash the heavy garments like the curtains and the sheets and the towels and iron them. And generations of those people who do that kind of job from one generation to the next. Or how your grandmother did her laundry. How did that impact your mother and you? Was it meditative? Was it a strict regime they followed? Because you'll find that some people, I always remember years ago, the guy who came to wash those heavy things. We had a washing machine, but he came and he did the heavier fabrics. And he was quiet and he just did his job. He came, he did his job, he left. He didn't have conversation with anybody, and he wasn't like a mean person or anything. He just came and did his job. It was almost meditative. It was like a trance, and he had the rhythm. I always remember the ironing. It had a musical, it was like music because it was those heavy irons that you put on the coal. So all the heavy stuff was done by him with that heavy iron, and the lighter stuff was done with electric iron by the maid or the nanny or whoever was employed to do that. But I always remember him just ironing, and there was a rhythm. When it landed on the fabric, and he picked it up and he put it on it was very musical, very meditative. I was very young, but now when I look back, I see that. And that's what you call the soundscape. It's also the kind of sound when you hear clothing flapping in the wind, or the sound of pegs clicking, and the silence between those two things. It's like a natural ASMR, you know. And then you have simplicity versus tech. Those days it was a simplified version of the man comes, he washes the heavy fabrics, he irons them, and he's gone. Now we have ironing machines where the larger objects can be pushed through this machine. We have dry cleaners. Then we have the choice of whether we want to hang clothes or not, or we want to tumble dry them. And it has nothing to do with morality, you know. It's just about presence, you know. It's not that one is better than the other, one is bad, or, you know, or good or bad, or no. It's just the way the world has moved on. They've brought in certain implements or instruments or tools to help lighten the load for us. And then when you think about laundry, it's also a metaphor, freedom of airing things out, literally and metaphorically. Hanging things outside changes the weight of them. They come out wet and then they're dry and light. It's like holding in things that weigh you down, and once you bring them out into the light, it lifts the weight off you. You know, those clothes are holding things in that water. When you wore it that day, you took them to different places, you met people, you spoke to people, you did things, you sweated, all those things are in your clothes. And then you wash them, you rid them of all that heaviness. And then when you hang them on the line or you tumble dry them, they come out lighter, fresher. Creases are even eliminated. It's called the freedom of airing things. So in closing, I just want to say some things dry better when they're left to air. Just like people too. Sometimes it's best to just leave people alone to do what they will. Give them that independence. Your children, even yourself. You know, just leaving them out, leaving them to be, leaving them out in the outdoor where your clothes are hung. Sometimes maybe we all need a clothesline moment to stretch and sway and soak in the sun. Be under the sky, the blue sky, the cloudy sky, even the breeze. Sometimes we need those moments, those hanging laundry moments, freeing ourselves, just being outdoor, releasing the heaviness, or airing out our thoughts out in the outdoor and underneath the sun on the line. I wish you well, good people. Have an absolutely fabulous day.